Lovely. So we're recording. So yeah, I'm Laura, by the way, just in case you haven't been to one of my classes before. I like to try and teach quite a functional kind of yoga. So I know some of you have practiced with it before, but not everyone here has. So yeah, my kind of passion is using that time on the mat to actually support our daily life, whether we're really active or whether we spend a lot of time sitting or a bit of both. I think that yoga is that opportunity to kind of recenter ourselves, focus our minds, focus our bodies, and hopefully support our daily life. So that's kind of where I come from. Just see how you get on. There's no pressure. I'll be leading you through the class, but there's no pressure to do what I'm telling you to do. If something doesn't feel right in your body, or if something feels too much or too little, just try and tune into that and listen to your body, and look after yourself. Enjoy it. So yeah, we'll start with a little bit of kind of how the shoulder moves, kind of looking into that, and then we'll go on to a kind of 90-minute flow with a shavasana at the end, and then there'll be a bit of time. I'll stay on for the kind of the last 15 minutes or so. I'll be around for questions or anything like that if you have any, and if not, feel free to go at the end. One thing also to mention with shoulders is because of our daily life, we often hold a lot of tension in our shoulders and in the back of our neck. So you might find that after this class, you might find that there's a bit of emotional release. That's completely fine. So whatever you feel afterwards, whether that's maybe you feel a bit emotional or otherwise, just be aware of that in your body. Really look after yourself. Take the time to notice it, and not to worry too much about kind of what it means. Just let it be, let it go. So yeah, we'll make a start. So let me just double check. Got lots of things. Yeah, obviously it's quite warm today. Make sure you drink plenty of water throughout class as well, and take a rest at any point if you need to. So I really want to encourage you to do what is good for your body today. So kind of talking about today, then we're looking at the neck. Just that, looking at the neck and the shoulders. So obviously our neck is part of our spine. It's kind of the top of our spine. There's 7 vertebrae that we talk about in the cervical spine, which is the very top, and the top 2 kind of give us the majority of our movement. So this is often, we've got lots of muscles in the neck that come down around the sides and linked to the shoulders, but often we find that gets quite tense, and a lot of that is to do with our lifestyle. We spend so much of our time nowadays on technology, on phones, and it means that we often spend our time with our neck forward like this, looking at something, and that can create quite a lot of pressure on our neck, on our shoulders, because basically for every angle that we look down, we're adding weight onto those muscles, adding weight onto that spine. And I mean, it's kind of known as text neck or tech neck, depending on who you speak to or where you come from. But kind of just to give you an idea, if you're in neutral, so you've got a gentle curve in the back of this neck, kind of the back of your head is in line with the back of your upper back, and there's a gentle kind of inward curve naturally there. If you're in neutral, there's about 5 kilograms of weight going through your neck. If you are just 15 degrees more over, that goes up to 12 kilograms. And if you go even more than that, so kind of to a 60-degree angle, that's almost 30 kilograms of weight that you're putting through your neck, just because of the angle. The bigger the angle, the more weight that goes through. So it's just something to be mindful of. We can all adjust that in our daily life. We can maybe bring our phone up in front of us rather than looking down. So certainly something I try and do, although I don't always do it. But we can bring some of these ideas in yoga into our daily life, which will just support us in everything that we do. And the other thing to kind of talk about with the neck is this idea that if you imagine you're holding like a little ball or a boiled egg or something underneath underneath your chin. So we talk about the bandhas in yoga, and this is one of the bandhas, which is just kind of an energetic lock, a kind of engagement of those muscles to support our posture, support the different yoga poses. And this kind of squeezing in of the neck, almost bringing a bit of a double chin in here, it just helps us to find that length in the back of the neck, and that kind of that freedom, that movement in the back of the neck. So kind of just trying to bring that idea in some of the poses. That's kind of our neutral position. It feels a bit strange, and it's not a kind of forcing. We're not really, squishing these muscles back. We're just kind of gently holding. And so I quite like that idea that we've got like a little ball or a boiled egg or something that we're just trying to loosely hold on to under our chin. If that doesn't work for you, don't worry, don't use that analogy. But yeah, so kind of trying to keep those things in mind. I think I'm really passionate about helping us all to understand our bodies a bit more, because I think that gives us that ability to then look after them in our life. So kind of coming down onto the shoulders, then we've got the trapezius muscle across the top here, which kind of links a lot of the shoulder movement with the neck movement. And I'm sure most of you know, a bit like last week we talked about the hips, the shoulders are also a ball and socket joint. So you have the socket and you have the humerus, the upper arm bone that fits into that socket. But unlike the hips, which is quite kind of deep, that socket, and the femur bone, the upper leg bone, really kind of fits quite snugly into our hip sockets. Our shoulders are quite different, so they're designed for movement. So we have a bigger range of movement in our shoulders than in our hips, and that, but that in turn means that socket is shallower. So in order to get that extra movement, we have a much shallower joint here, which means that we rely a lot more on our muscles to draw that stability, that humerus into the joint. So it's just worth kind of bearing in mind, particularly in yoga. We do a lot of work on our hands, tabletop pose, down dog, all of these things, chaturanga, plank, up dog, everything kind of uses our shoulders, but our shoulders aren't really, that their primary purpose isn't weight bearing, it's movement. So it's kind of really good for us to think about building that stability slowly and over time in order to then make them stronger and able to take our weight better, because they can do that, and actually it's very good for us to build that strength in order to support our bodies. But it just needs to be done in the right way. So we'll kind of be looking at some of that as well today. So obviously we've got, as well as our humerus, we've got two other bones that make up the shoulder. So we've got our shoulder blade, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and our collarbone here, and they kind of all fit together in a really clever way. I would love to have a little fake, one of those skeletons that I could show you, but basically there's actually 4 different kind of joints that make up the overall shoulder joint. So it's much more complicated than we might think at first, and incredibly clever. But we often in yoga, well, we might often hear in yoga things about bringing our shoulder blades down. So that's great when you're standing, particularly when your arms are by your sides. You really want to be thinking about drawing your shoulder blades down your back, so they're moving down your back. But actually, as we begin to lift our arms up, those shoulder blades are designed, they're kind of like floating on our back. They're designed to move up with our arm. So if your arm is up here, we don't want to be trying to force that shoulder blade down and our arm up. Our shoulder blades are designed to float up over. So it's okay if you feel a bit of lift here. When we're weight bearing, we want to be thinking about keeping our shoulder blades really, our shoulder joints really secure. And one of the ways we can do that is we want to think about just drawing our shoulder blades towards each other slightly on our backs. So we don't worry if you don't remember all this, by the way. I'm giving you lots of information, but we'll go through it throughout the class as well. But just to kind of give you an idea, but we want to be trying to think about trying to keep a neutral position in our shoulders. So we're not squeezing our shoulder blades really close together, but we're not pushing them apart either, because this kind of rounding can create what's called an impingement in that the top of the joint. Many of you might have heard of a shoulder impingement, and that's when some of our muscles, our rotator cuff muscles, get inflamed and they go through the actual bone. And when we round our shoulders, that really squashes that gap in the bone and causes aggravation. So we really want to be thinking about keeping our shoulders in a nice neutral position. So somewhere between the two, you know, they're kind of almost pointing upwards when we're in a standing position. I'll be honest, I climb a lot, so I don't have the best examples of shoulders, because climbing naturally enhances that rounding. So I have to really consciously think about bringing that kind of realignment back into my shoulders. So just while we're going through today, really try and focus on those parts of our body. So trying to keep our shoulders pointing upwards or forwards when we're, you know, if we're coming into plank. They're not squeezing together. Well, they might be as you come into chaturanga, but in plank, we're not squeezing them together and we're not pushing them apart. We're just trying to find space between them, but keep them close into our body. And one of the ways we can do that is to try and think, whenever we're lowering to the ground, we want to imagine our elbows are going backwards. So it's not about hugging them into our body, because if you watch what happens to my shoulders when I do that, it kind of creates that rounding. It's allowing them to have a bit of space to move beside our bodies quite freely. So yeah, that's quite a lot of information, but hopefully it's helpful. Yeah. What else have I got on here? That's kind of most of it. If there's anything anyone in particular wants to know about shoulders, feel free to just pop something in the chat box now. But otherwise, we'll probably make a start on the actual flow. So does anyone have anything that they'd like to share, or anything they'd particularly like to get out of that, or questions from that? Sorry, I've talked a lot. All right, brilliant. Well, I'm gonna, oh, is someone typing? Just give you a moment. All right. Okay, so I think we will make a start then on our flow today. Oh, no. Okay, so are you happy for me to share what you just popped in there, or is that just for me to know throughout class, Jude? Brilliant. Okay, so Jude's just said that she has a numb thumb and forefinger. So is that just on one side, Jude? Yes. Okay, so I am no medical expert, so I don't know for sure is the first thing to say. But it could be that there's some swelling which is affecting the nerves. We have a lot of nerves that go through the shoulder joint itself. I've forgotten the name of them right now, but they kind of come straight through the shoulder joint and down into our arm. It could be that there's some inflammation there that has kind of constricted that and is causing that. I know that often happens in the legs with the sciatic nerve. We can create an inflammation in our muscles around the hip, and that can create that kind of constriction, and you can get numbness in the leg. Kind of sounds similar to that. I couldn't say for sure. But certainly could be something you could work on, really trying to keep those shoulders kind of aligned, and also just seeing if it's to rest. So see how you get on today and take care. Oh, I've just had a notification saying my internet connection is unstable, so apologies if it goes strange at any point. Let's hope it lasts. Does anyone else have any questions before we start? No? All right, lovely. So we'll make a start. We'll start on our backs on the mat in a comfortable position. We'll just do a bit of breathing to start with. No problem. So yeah, you can come onto your backs with your knees up towards the ceiling, or out in front of you, or in any other position that feels good for you, maybe a reclined bound angle pose. And just taking a moment here to just really tune in to your body. So feeling free to shuffle a bit, move a bit, and then settle in. Rolling those shoulders underneath you slightly, and just letting your hands come out to the sides, palms facing up towards the ceiling. Just closing your eyes here, drawing your attention inwards. And just trying to notice every part of your body. Paying particular attention to your shoulders, your neck, your head today. Really beginning to breathe into those areas. Just imagining sending the breath to your shoulders and your neck and your head. And with that breath, some extra energy. Maybe that's for a little bit of extra healing or just awakening today. Then bringing your awareness into your breath, into your lungs. Trying to deepen that breath and slow it down a little bit. Really breathing with intention. As you inhale, trying to draw that breath in right to the very tip of the base of the lungs, allowing your whole tummy to expand, your whole chest to expand, even your throat to expand as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, just letting every part of you be soft, emptying those lungs completely, really pushing the breath out. And just trying to keep that full breath for every inhalation and every exhalation. Maybe just beginning to breathe through your nose, allowing your diaphragm, your muscles to do the work of the breath. Really just tuning into the sound of your breath as it moves in and out of your body. We'll take a few breaths here all together, breathing in through the nose, filling those lungs up. And then just sighing everything out through the mouth, making some noise as you do,
Just letting everything go. Taking another deep inhalation here. Again, imagine filling the whole of your body with that breath, with that energy. And then again, a big sigh out through the mouth, just letting go of everything else, just letting your whole body be soft. And one more inhalation here. Again, through the nose, if that feels good for you. Maybe beginning to use your Ujjayi breath if you use that. On your next exhalation, just letting that breath out with control, trying to allow that breath to escape slowly. On your next inhalation, opening your eyes, bringing your awareness back into your body. And just exhaling, beginning to bring that awareness to your core, thinking about sending that tummy button down towards the mat, wrapping those outside edges towards your center line. Just beginning to hold on to that energy, connecting the upper and lower body, really trying to keep that breath flowing from the tummy and keep your core active so that we're helping that energy flow as well as it can through the whole of the body. On your next inhalation, we'll just sweep the arms up and overhead behind us, reaching behind us, letting those shoulder blades go up and back towards the back of the room. As you exhale, just bringing the hands back down beside you, palms facing down towards the ground. Just do that a couple more times and time to your own breath. Inhaling the arms behind you, reaching behind you. And exhaling, bringing the arms back down beside you. Your next inhalation, as your hands are behind you, we'll just interlace the fingers and just turn the palms of our hands away from our heads against the back of the room, and just beginning to stretch out here. Stretch the wrists a little, stretch the shoulders, just breathing into this pose, keeping that breath nice and even. On your next exhalation, unentwining the fingers and bringing them back down beside your body. Palms facing down onto the mat, just rolling the shoulders underneath you, planting your feet nice and firmly hip width apart. We'll inhale slowly into a low bridge, so we're not trying to get too high here, just beginning to activate our glutes in this pose, another major muscle group that just helps support our body. So maybe bringing your fingers to your glutes, to your buttock muscles, giving them a prod, reminding them to wake up. Being really mindful that your pelvis is nice and even here. So even though we're thinking about the shoulders and the neck today, our bodies are all connected. And what happens in our pelvis also affects what happens in our shoulders and our neck. So we want to think about keeping that pelvis nice and neutral, so not tipping backwards or forwards or side to side. And that in turn helps us keep our shoulders and our neck more aligned. Hence why we're starting with this pose. So breathing nice and deeply here, really starting to hopefully feel some activation in the glutes. Taking a deep breath in and then slowly exhaling, releasing back down to the mat. Keeping that core engaged, so not collapsing here. We'll inhale again, lift that pelvis straight back up, breathing nice and deeply. If this feels good for you, you can inhale, bring the right arm up overhead, palm facing up towards the ceiling. If this feels a bit much with the pelvis off the mat, you can bring that down to the mat. Then we'll bring the left hand to the right fingertips and just gently draw the right fingertips back towards our face, really spreading the fingers, spreading the thumb So we're finding a bit of a stretch in that wrist, breathing nice and deeply still activating those glutes if you're still in bridge. Lovely. Couple more breaths here. And then on your next exhalation, just releasing the hands, releasing the pelvis back down to the mat. And just pausing here, taking a deep breath in, maybe sighing it out through the mouth again. And then we'll do that on the other side. So inhale, slowly lift that pelvis up off the mat. Once more into a low bridge, activating those glutes, pressing through the soles of the feet. Then bring the left hand up overhead, palm facing the ceiling. Right fingertips to the left fingertips, drawing them gently back towards our face, spreading that thumb, spreading the fingers, trying to stretch out. Breathing nice and deeply, softening the face. And then on your next exhalation, just releasing the hands and the body back down to the mat. Extend the legs nice and long, extend the fingers behind you and just reach to either end of the room with the fingertips, with the tips of the toes, finding that length in the whole of the body and in the sides. Maybe even taking a big yawn here. And then releasing the hands back beside your body, the knees up towards the ceiling. And we'll just bring the arms up overhead now. And we're just going to draw some awareness into our shoulders. So I'd like you to imagine that you're holding onto a ball in front of you. And so your hands are going to stay kind of similar distance apart. You're trying to keep that energy there in between the hands. And you're going to try and keep the elbows nice and straight. Push that ball away from you. So finding space between the shoulder blades, the shoulders themselves might come off the mat. And then we'll draw that ball back towards our face, squeezing the shoulder blades together behind us. Bring the shoulders flat on the mat. Inhaling, pushing that ball up away from us. Exhaling, drawing the shoulder blades together, bringing the ball back towards us. And just continuing in time to your own breath here. Just trying to find a little bit of movement in the shoulders. Beginning to warm them up slightly and just finding some nice shoulder mobility here. And on your next exhalation, just trying to soften the shoulders, not all the way, so we're not squeezing them together, but just so that the shoulder blades are resting on the mat. And that's kind of your neutral position. So kind of halfway between the two. On your next exhalation, interlacing the fingers and bringing the hands behind the head. Inhaling, drawing the elbows together, so finding that space between the shoulder blades. Just going to soften the head down into our hands here. And beginning to bring some awareness to the core. You can either stay like this, or as you exhale, you can just see if you can lift the shoulders up off the mat, really using the core to lift the shoulders here though. We don't want to be forcing ourselves up with our neck. So relaxing the neck back into the hands. And then as you inhale, releasing back down to the mat. We'll just do that a few more times. So as we exhale, lifting up the shoulders off the mat, pausing at the top, trying to suspend the breath for a moment. And then inhaling, lowering back down, just warming up our core, helping us to support our bodies in our poses. Your next exhalation, lifting up off the mat. And this time bringing the right elbow towards the left side of the body. Inhaling, coming back to center and lowering back down. And exhaling, coming straight back up off the mat. Left elbow towards the right side of our body this time. Inhaling, coming back to center and lowering slowly back down. Do that once more on each side. So as we exhale, lifting the shoulders up off the mat, right shoulder towards the left side. Hold the breath for a moment. And then inhale, come back to center, lower slowly back down. Exhale, come straight back up, left elbow towards right side of the body. Pausing here, pausing a moment. And then inhaling, coming back to center and lowering back down, letting the hands fall out to the side or the elbows come out to the side, and just taking a nice deep breath in here, softening, releasing, relaxing. Releasing the hands from behind the head, drawing the knees in towards our torso and just rocking side to side for a moment. Just really trying to go nice and slowly here, keeping that breath nice and even, trying to imagine that you're rocking onto every part of your back, really giving yourself a bit of a massage here. If you feel like this is a bit uncomfortable, trying to think about softening that tailbone down so it's nice and flat, and that should help your spine feel a bit more relaxed on the mat. And then coming back to center, bringing your hands behind your thighs, and we'll just rock and roll up to a seated position. You can come into any seated position. You can even sit on a chair for this if you want to. Just bringing any fleshy bits out of the way so you're on your sit bones. I'm going to cross my legs, but you can do whatever you would like to. Just finding some length here through the spine, keeping that core engagement, so sending the tummy button back towards the spine and drawing those lower ribs towards each other. Imagine that thread pulling the crown of your head up. And we're thinking about trying to find that neutral spine here. So we've got a gentle curve in the back of the neck, kind of a gentle inward curve in the back of the neck, a gentle outward curve in the top of the back. Breathing nice and deeply here, smiling into our body. And bringing our hands to the tops of our shoulders. We're just going to roll the shoulders a few times. We're going to try and keep our torso completely still, and it's just the shoulders that are moving. And what we really want to be doing here is rolling the shoulders backwards. So I'd encourage you, whenever you do, or if you ever do shoulder rolls, always go backwards. You don't need to really go forwards, because we spend so much of our time in life hunched over things that actually just rolling the shoulders backwards is much more beneficial. Just breathing nice and deeply, bringing that awareness to your chin, thinking about holding that boiled egg underneath your chin, keeping that back of the neck nice and long. Lovely. And then we'll release our hands down beside us. Inhale the right arm up overhead and exhale over towards the left, opening up that right side and really reaching up and out through those right fingertips. Taking a deep breath in here. And then as we exhale, just releasing the right hand down towards the left, softening the face and the neck here, just releasing the head, breathing nice and deeply into our right side body. Inhaling, walking the hands back to center, keeping the chin glued to the chest, and slowly coming back up to a seated position. If you've got your legs crossed, you can just switch those legs over now. We'll bring the right hand down beside us. Inhale, sweep the left arm up overhead, and exhale over towards the right, opening up the left side. Pausing here for an inhalation. And then exhaling, releasing that left hand down to the right side of our body, softening our head, bringing our chin to our chest, and just releasing in that left side. Breathing nice and deeply, trying to keep the weight evenly distributed between both sides of our body. Inhaling, walking the hands forward, and this time exhaling, rolling forward into all fours. Finding our tabletop pose. Taking care to really try and set this position up. So knees under hips, hands under shoulders, elbows towards the top of the mat, and then look up towards the front of the room and just bring your gaze to the top of the mat. Imagine you've still got something underneath your chin. So we're finding some extra length in the back of the neck here and breathing nice and deeply, keeping that core active. From here, we're just going to move the shoulders. So inhale, we're going to see if we can push the mat away with our fingertips just a little bit more, find more space in the back body. As we exhale, we're going to do what we did on the ground, which is squeeze the shoulder blades together and draw the chest down. But we're not collapsing here, so we're keeping that lower body supported. And just continuing in time to your own breath here. So inhaling, pushing the mat away from you, finding space between the shoulder blades. Exhaling, squeezing the shoulders together and trying to draw the chest down. So it's not going to be a huge movement. It's just a kind of gentle up and down. And depending how much you do this, you might find that you get more mobility quite quickly. Just breathing nice and deeply. Lovely. Really taking care to keep that head neutral. So imagine that thread pulling that crown of your head to the front of the room. That boiled egg under your chin. Just breathing. If you have some sensitivity in your hands or your shoulders, you can actually turn your hands just outwards a little here. So kind of the bit between your thumb and your first finger is pointing to the top of the mat. That can help us keep our shoulders in a slightly more stable position. You can do that for all poses, for down dog, for anything with our hands on the ground. Just keep breathing nice and deeply here. And then coming to a place of stillness, just seeing if we can find that neutral shoulder position. So somewhere between the two, we're not squeezing the shoulders together, we're not pushing them apart. We're just releasing into that kind of halfway position. From here, we'll exhale, release our hands down onto, or our body down onto our forearms, bringing the hands together if that feels better for you. Making sure the elbows are underneath our shoulders, and then just rounding the back, releasing the head in between our arms, just shaking our head a little bit here. Maybe looking side to side, trying to find that space between the shoulder blades, breathing nice and deeply. And then inhaling, coming back to all fours. Finding that length again through the body. We'll take a few rounds of cat-cow here. So as we inhale, drop the tummy, lift the crown of the head and the tailbone. And then as we exhale, see if you can find that space between the shoulder blades as we round the back and come into cat position, really bringing the chin to the chest. Inhaling, dropping the tummy, lifting the crown of the head and the tailbone, squeezing those shoulder blades together. Exhaling, rounding the back, really pushing the mat away from you, finding a bit more space, maybe shaking the neck, shaking the head here to release the neck. Inhaling, dropping the tummy, lifting the crown of the head and the tailbone, squeezing those shoulder blades together, finding lift in the back of the neck so we're not crunching backwards. Once more, exhaling, rounding the back, really pushing that mat away from you, bringing the chin to the chest, and just maybe shaking the head out slightly here too. Breathing nice and deeply. And then inhaling, coming back to neutral, back to that nice neutral spine, neutral shoulders. And then we're just going to start building a bit of strength into our shoulders for today's practice. So keeping that neutral position in the shoulders, neutral spine. As we exhale, we're going to lower slowly down towards the ground, letting the elbows come down. You can sink back into your knees a little here. So we're really trying to keep that body strong. Just bring the forehead down to the mat. And then inhale, see if we can lift back up into our tabletop. I'm really trying to send those elbows to the back of the room so they're not coming out to the sides, because that creates that rounding in the shoulders and that possible impingement. And also not hugging them under our body. Okay, so we're trying to keep them going back to the back of the room. Just doing this a few more times. So maybe if you want to, you can extend your knees out a little and come into half plank, keeping that core active, and just doing the same here. Breathing nice and deeply. On your next exhalation, just lowering all the way down to the mat, coming all the way down onto your tummy, untucking the toes. Just rolling the shoulders a few times away from your ears, and then really hugging your shoulder blades in towards your body, bringing your hands either side of you. We'll inhale up into a baby cobra, trying to use the back muscles to draw our body up off the mat. So we're not pushing through our fingertips. It doesn't matter if we get a centimeter off the ground or higher. Just really trying to use those shoulder blades, use those muscles to draw the head and shoulders up. And really being aware here, you're trying to think about keeping your shoulders pointing kind of upwards. They're not collapsing, being careful not to let them round. Keeping that breath nice and even. And engaging the glutes to protect the lower back. Lots to think about. One more deep breath here. And then exhaling, slowly releasing back down to the mat. Inhaling, tucking the toes and seeing if we can keep those shoulder blades slightly pointing kind of up and forward, squeezing them slightly together, keeping that core active and pushing it up halfway. Exhaling, sending the tailbone back and up for a downward facing dog. Taking care here to spread the fingers, finding that nice length in the spine and the elbows towards the back, towards the front of the mat. Sorry. Really taking care in downward facing dog, making sure we're not collapsing into our shoulders. So we shouldn't be hanging here in our shoulders. It's a nice active pose. We've got our core engaged and our elbows going towards the front of the room. This stops us from creating that impingement in the shoulder. On your next inhalation, see if you can find a little more length in the body. Then as you exhale, just tiptoeing those feet up towards the hands, rounding the back, bringing the torso to rest on the thighs and just releasing in a ragdoll, maybe hands to elbows or to the floor, just swaying it out. You can also bring them to the back of your neck here. Just gently stroke the back of the neck, the back of the head. Imagine just drawing all that tension away and out of your head into the ground. Breathing nice and deeply. On your next inhalation, just slowly beginning to roll up to standing. You can take as long as you want here. Take it over a few breaths if you want to. Breathing nice and slowly, keeping your chin tucked to your chest until you're upright. And just pausing with your chin to your chest for a moment before bringing your gaze up and coming into a mountain pose. Lovely. Breathing nice and deeply here. Just take a moment to find our alignment here. Really pressing through the feet, finding that lift in the kneecaps. Again, bringing that awareness to your pelvis. So what happens in your pelvis affects what happens in the rest of your body. So just trying to keep that pelvis nice and neutral. Slight engagement in the core so we're not splaying our ribs. And then we'll inhale, bring the shoulders up to the ears and exhale, round them down our back. A couple more times here, inhaling them up towards our ears and exhaling them down our back. Lovely. And then just seeing if we can keep them released down our back, finding that lift through the crown of the head, that boiled egg coming back under our chin. A lovely mountain pose here. Then from here, we'll inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. And while we're here, we'll reach up as high as we can and let those shoulder blades come up. Let them lift up. Hug your biceps in towards your ears. And breathe here, keeping the core active so we're not suddenly splaying. We're wrapping all that energy around our body and holding it in, reaching up and out. Your next exhalation, folding forward from the hips, bring the hands to heart center or to your hip crease and coming all the way down into a forward fold, bending the knees if you need to. And just releasing here. Inhaling, coming up into your halfway lift, soft knees if you need to. And again, just taking care here to really try and draw those shoulder blades down your back, keeping that core engaged so we're not splaying out in the hips. Lovely. And that crown of the head going forward so we're not looking forward. Lovely. Breathing nice and deeply. Exhaling, releasing over our legs. We'll step our left foot back behind us, drop the knee, come into our low lunge. I always teach a right angle low lunge, but you can practice as you normally would if it's different. And we'll really engage that left glute. That helps to keep the pelvis stable, which in turn helps us to keep that length in the spine. Keeping that chin active, reaching up through the fingertips, breathing nice and deeply here. On your next exhalation, we'll just reach over towards the right slightly through the fingertips, bringing some space into the left side of our body. Inhaling, coming back to center, and exhaling, folding forward over that front foot, stepping back into a plank or half plank or tabletop to suit you. Pausing for a moment here, letting that heat build, being aware of that neutrality in the shoulders. And then exhaling, dropping the knees and lowering down onto your tummy and your head, untucking the toes, keeping the hands beside you, those shoulders squeezed in towards each other, inhaling up into a cobra or baby cobra. Exhaling, releasing back down to the mat, inhaling, tucking the toes, pushing up halfway, keeping that core active and trying to keep those shoulders active. Exhaling, downward facing dog. If this gets too much on your shoulders today, some of these moves, just coming into a child's pose or a resting pose, remembering to listen to your body. Breathing nice and deeply. I'd encourage you to bend your knees today if you want to in downward facing dog, to just really try and find a little bit more engagement in the shoulders. Breathing nice and deeply here. We can maybe have a go at shrugging our shoulders in our downward facing dog. So we want movement, we want mobility, we don't want our shoulders to be stuck. So if they do feel a little bit stuck here in downward facing dog, maybe just coming back to all fours, planting the hands underneath the shoulders, inside of the elbows to the top of the mat, and then exhaling, sending the tailbone up and back and keeping those elbows facing the top of the mat. So you might feel you can't go as deep into this pose, but it's much better for our shoulders to be in this position. And we should find that we can release here, maybe push up and down through our hands, find that movement in the shoulders, breathing nice and deeply. On your next inhalation, lifting that left foot out behind you, and exhaling, stepping it forward to meet the left hand, dropping the right knee, and coming up into a low lunge on this side, reaching up, letting those shoulder blades follow the arms as we reach up, keeping those ribs going towards each other. Exhaling over towards the left this time. Really keeping that right glute active to open up the right hip. And breathing nice and deeply the whole time. Inhaling, coming back to center, and exhaling, reaching forward over that front foot, stepping the right foot to meet the left, bending the knees, and this time just bringing the elbows to the top, to the thighs, just above the knees, resting the head on here. Just rocking the head side to side, breathing nice and deeply, and just allowing some release here. Your next exhalation, just releasing the hands back down to the mat, folding over for a moment. And then inhaling, reaching the arms up and out in front of you and up overhead, coming into standing. Exhaling, mountain pose. We'll inhale again, sweep the arms up overhead. And again, we'll just spend a moment reaching up as high as we can, really letting those shoulder blades lift up towards the ceiling. And then exhaling, folding forward, bringing the hands to heart center. Rounding the back, bending the knees if you need to. Releasing here for a moment. Shaking out the head if that feels good for you. And then inhaling, coming up to your halfway lift, finding that length in the body, engagement in the core, really sending those shoulders down your back. Breathing nice and deeply. And exhaling, releasing back over into forward fold. Stepping the right foot back behind you and dropping the knee. We'll inhale up into our low lunge on this side. Just bringing hands to heart center, engaging that right glute, opening up that right hip flexor, finding that length in the spine. We'll bring our left hand out beside us. Our right hand can just come towards our right hip. And as we exhale, we'll just release the right ear towards the right shoulder. You should start to feel a stretch in the left side of the neck. We still want to keep that chin slightly tucked. Inhaling here, and then as you exhale again, looking over towards your left hand, and then coming back, bringing your right ear towards your right shoulder. Pausing here for a breath. Maybe flexing the wrist a little more, the fingertips down towards the ground to open up that left side of the neck. Inhaling, slowly coming back to center, and exhaling, releasing both hands down to the mat, planting them nice and firmly, and stepping back into a plank or a half plank or tabletop to suit you. Breathing nice and deeply, keeping that spine long, finding that nice neutral shoulder position. And then either exhaling, dropping the knees, going through chaturanga, or going through chaturanga, sorry, keeping those shoulders pointing up towards the ceiling. Inhaling, coming up into our cobra. Maybe this time lifting up a little higher, but trying to still use those back muscles. So maybe floating those hands off the mat, really trying to squeeze the shoulder blades in, engage those glutes. Exhaling, releasing back down to the mat. Inhaling, tucking the toes and keeping those shoulders pointing and squeezing in slightly, pushing up halfway. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Breathing nice and deeply here. Taking any movements that feel good for you. So again, maybe shaking out the head, maybe walking out the feet, or maybe if you want to, just dropping the hips side to side, just opening the sides of our body a little bit more. We're connected throughout our body with something called fascia, and it kind of crisscrosses through our body. I'll talk about that a bit more next week, but what happens in our lower back kind of is linked to what happens in our opposite side shoulder. So breathing nice and deeply wherever you are. We'll inhale, come back to center, back to a place of stillness. And just exhale, seeing if we can really find that space between the shoulders and the ears, shaking out the head, maybe sighing it out here too. And your next inhalation, we'll lift our right leg out behind us. As we exhale, we'll step it forward to meet the right hand, dropping the left knee. Inhaling up into a low lunge on this side. Really engaging that left glute, finding that length through the spine. We'll bring our right hand out beside us this time, palm facing away from us. Left hand to the left hip. As we exhale, we'll just draw our left ear towards our left shoulder. Hopefully starting to feel a stretch in that right side. Just looking over towards your right hand and then bringing your head back into towards your left shoulder. Breathing nice and deeply, maybe flexing your fingers a little more down towards the ground to open up that body. This stretch also works into our fascia, which connects the hands to our skull. Breathing here. And then inhaling, coming back up to center, and exhaling, folding over that front foot, stepping the left foot to meet the right foot, and inhaling straight up into our standing. Close our mountain pose, reaching up towards the ceiling. Exhaling, releasing the arms down beside us. And as we inhale, we'll bring them back up through heart center, reaching up again, reaching up as high as we can. Exhaling, opening up as wide as we can, maybe a little wider than we did last time. Inhaling, reaching up as high as we can. Exhaling, sweeping our hands out behind us as wide as we can. Just a couple more here, really trying to mobilize those shoulders. And then on your next inhalation, just staying with your arms up overhead and exhaling, folding all the way forward, forward fold. Inhaling, coming up halfway lift, and exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, stepping the left foot back behind you, dropping that left knee and coming up into your low lunge, activating that left glute. Pausing here for a moment and then bringing the hands to the shoulders. Just begin to do some shoulder rolls here. So trying to keep that pelvis completely stable, so we're not moving from the pelvis at all, or the torso, so we're not moving side to side here. We're trying to just roll the shoulders. You might find you don't get as big a circles, that's okay. Breathing nice and deeply. And then inhaling, bringing the hands to heart center and seeing if we can lift up into our crescent lunge. Exhaling, the arms out behind us and squeezing. Imagine you're holding onto a ball behind you, squeezing your shoulder blades down your back and towards each other. Inhaling, reaching forward, leaning forward. Exhaling, bringing the hands behind you, reaching behind you. Inhaling, reaching forward, keeping that core active and engaged. And then exhaling, folding over that front leg, planting that left hand. And as we inhale, we'll reach up, leading with the elbow first, and then reaching up with our right hand. And I'd encourage you today to just resist the urge to look up at that right hand. We're releasing the neck. So just see if you can let that head be heavy, releasing and not holding on to the muscles there. One more breath here. And as you exhale, releasing that right hand to meet the left hand and walking both hands out towards the long edge of the mat for a wide-legged forward fold. Planting that left hand in the center of that forward fold, we'll open up towards the right again, elbow first, and then maybe the hand, releasing the head. Exhaling, releasing that right hand to replace the left hand, and inhaling the left arm up. Again, releasing the head, trying not to hold on to tension there. Exhaling, releasing that left hand, and inhaling the right hand up. We'll do this a couple more times on each side, just in time to your own breath. Again, trying to resist the urge to look up at your hand and just trust that your hand knows where to go, looking out towards the side or even down towards the ground. So we don't want to be forcing our neck at all today. Lovely. Your next exhalation, just releasing both hands to the mat and either keeping both hands there. You can just fold forward or maybe release the hands and come into a wide-legged ragdoll. If that feels a bit much, feel free to bend the knees, looking after your body. Lovely. Breathing nice and deeply here again. You can even bring your hands to the back of your neck and just stroke out any tension. And walking your hands around to your left foot, turning to the back of the mat and dropping the right knee down. So we're coming into a low lunge on this side. Inhaling up. Okay. Bringing the hands to the shoulders, keeping that right glute active, left heel active. Isolating those shoulder rolls on this side. So just breathing nice and deeply. Keeping that chin tucked, that length through the back of the neck. And then inhaling, bringing the hands to heart center and stepping up into our crescent lunge. Lovely. Keeping that pelvis nice and neutral so we're not sticking our bum out behind us. And then inhaling, bringing the arms behind us, squeezing them together, finding that length and space in the front of the body. Pausing here for a moment as we exhale. Then inhaling, reaching forward, leaning forward. So we're coming into a tilted crescent, letting those shoulders rise up. Exhaling, releasing them behind us. Don't worry about where they get to. Try and let go of that feeling of where they should go and just listen to your body. Inhale, reach forward. And exhale, reach behind. One more. Inhale, reach forward. And then exhale, fold over that front foot. Plant the hand this time. And inhale, the left arm up. Release that head down towards the right. Breathing, smiling, being gentle with your body, listening to your body. One more breath here. And then exhaling, releasing that left hand to meet the right hand and walking the hands around to that long edge of the mat. We'll do the same as we did on the other side. So we'll plant the right hand first this time. And we'll inhale the left arm up overhead. Exhaling, releasing that left hand and inhaling the right arm up. Again, trying to resist that urge to look up. Just allowing your body to move, trusting it to know what to do and just listening. You don't even need to extend the arm. You can just keep the elbow pointing up. Just moving between the two sides as you breathe. Lovely. And your next exhalation, just releasing into a wide-legged forward fold, trying to let go of any tension. Maybe shimmying a bit here, breathing. And walking the hands around to the right leg, turning to face the front of the mat again and stepping back into a downward facing dog. Pushing that mat away from you, finding a bit more space between the shoulders and the ears. Inhaling here. And then as you exhale, just walking those hands back towards those feet, trying to sit the weight evenly in the feet, keeping the torso touching the thighs, so we're bending our knees, And then just reach forward with those fingertips on the mat. Just shimmy that tailbone side to side as if we're wagging our tail. Opening up the side a little here, releasing the head. You can maybe even get that moving as well. And then inhaling, walking those hands all the way forward into a plank or half plank or tabletop. Just somewhere that you feel you can engage your core and find that length in the body. From here, you can exhale, lower the knees or go through chaturanga, so listening to your body. And inhale up into a cobra, squeezing those elbows together. Exhaling, downward facing dog. And pausing here for a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Just sighing everything out here. Your next inhalation, we'll just roll forward and drop the knees. And exhale, come down onto our forearms. You can bring your hands together here, interlace the fingers, keeping the elbows stacked underneath your shoulder. Just release the head in between. Just puffing up the upper back here, releasing that head, finding a little bit of space here in between the shoulder blades. And keeping the toes tucked. You can either stay here like this, breathing into this pose, or as you inhale, you can just send your tailbone up into the sky for a dolphin pose. If this feels slightly strange in your body, feel free to keep your hands in line with your shoulders. But what we don't want is for our elbows to be going wider than our shoulders. So just trying to keep that energy hugging in, breathing wherever you are, finding a little bit of openness, but also strength in the shoulders here. Maybe you can walk out your feet into a dolphin plank. If you're in all fours, just staying where you are and then breathing here for a moment before maybe exhaling, pushing that tailbone back up into the air and walking those feet back in for another dolphin. Keeping that head loose, that neck loose, so we're not holding on to tension here. And then wherever you are, exhaling, releasing the knees to the mat and sinking the tailbone back, reaching forward with the fingertips, coming into a child's pose for a moment. Breathing nice and deeply here. Just finding space in the back body, space in the side body. And your next inhalation, rolling forward, coming back into all fours. Just finding a moment here, seeing if you can find that length in the spine again that we found at the beginning. So drawing that tailbone up, drawing that tummy button up towards the spine, and that tailbone and kind of back of the head, and making that nice straight line in our back body. Keeping that length in the back body. We'll inhale, tuck the toes, and exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, walk those feet up towards the hands. We'll just exhale, round the back, forward fold or ragdoll. Placing the hands back down on the mat, we'll walk those feet back out into a downward facing dog. Bending the knees if you need to. And we'll inhale, bring that right leg up behind us. Squeeze the glute to lift the leg, making sure that pelvis is nice and neutral. And then exhale, see if we can step it up towards that right hand. Exhale, drop that left knee and inhale up into our low lunge. Bringing the hands up overhead. And then exhaling, releasing the hands in front of us, trying to find that neutral shoulder position. So not reaching forward or squeezing them back, just finding that nice middle ground. Inhaling here. And then exhaling, releasing that left hand down and out in front of you, opening up towards the back, twisting the can't get my words out. The body open to the left. Inhaling, bringing the left arm forward to meet the right. And exhaling, opening up again towards the left side. Just continuing in time to your own breath. A few more times, just thinking about opening the body, opening the shoulder, keeping the shoulders lowered away from your ears here. Your next exhalation, opening up and just pausing here, reaching to either end of the room, breathing, finding that length, still keeping that left glute active. Inhaling, bringing that left arm forward, and exhaling, planting the hands, lifting that back leg, and inhaling the right arm up and open. Exhaling, releasing that right hand to meet the left. And again, walking the hands round to the left side of your body for a wide-legged position. This time turning the feet to point to the top corners of the mat so the heels are closer together than the toes. Then inhaling up into our goddess position. So big, nice, wide squat here. If you need to rest at any point, please do. Just bringing one hand to the back of your pelvis here, one hand to the back of your head. You're going to really try and think about keeping them in line. So pushing your head back slightly. So we're trying to, and tucking your tailbone under. So what we're trying to do is find that nice neutral position, that length in the spine here. Trying to keep that position. We'll bring our left hand down to the top of our left thigh, palm facing up. And inhale the right arm up overhead. Exhale, reach over towards the left. Trying to keep that left side engaged still so we're not collapsing. Breathing into that right side body. Doing well here, guys, lovely. Then inhaling, coming back up to center. Exhaling the right hand down. Inhaling the left arm up. And exhaling over towards the right, opening up that left side body, still keeping that spine neutral. Inhaling, coming back up to center. Exhaling the left hand down, just pausing for a moment, maybe bringing your head, your hand behind your head and your sacrum again. And then seeing if you can keep that alignment. So if you can fold forward from the hips into a forward fold. Lovely, guys. Bring the hands to the mat, bending the knees as much as you need to, planting that left hand and inhaling the right arm up. Exhaling the right arm down and inhaling the left arm up. Exhaling the left arm down, walking the hands round to the right side of the mat. So we're facing the front again and stepping back for a downward facing dog. Breathing here, taking a rest if you need to, child's pose if that feels good for you. And just trying to find that space in the shoulders, that looseness in the head. And your next inhalation, lifting that left leg out behind you. And exhaling, stepping the left foot forward. And dropping the right knee. Coming up into a low lunge on this side. Really squeezing that right glute, lifting up through the crown of the head. And bringing the arms up above you. Inhaling, bringing the arms out in front of you. Finding that neutral position for the shoulders. So spending a moment to get that right in your body. We're all different, remember, so trying to tune into your body. And we'll exhale, release it open towards the right. Bring that right arm out behind you. Inhale, reach forward. And exhale, reach behind. Keeping that pelvis nice and neutral the whole time. So just isolating that movement in the upper body and the upper back. On your next exhalation, just pausing for a couple of breaths, opening up to the right. Keeping those shoulders away from your ears, that length through the spine. And then on your next inhalation, bringing that right arm forward and exhaling over that left foot. Extending the right leg long, planting the right hand and inhaling the left arm up, releasing that head. Trying to resist the urge to look up. Breathing here for a moment. And then exhaling, releasing that left hand down to meet the right and walking the hands round to the right hand long edge of the mat this time. Bringing the feet into our goddess position, so toes wider apart than our heels. Sinking back into our tailbone and lifting up into our goddess pose. I'm just going to turn around because otherwise I'll bang my head. So really trying to sit down through the tailbone here, finding that length in the spine. Bringing one hand behind your head, the other behind your sacrum. Just trying to find length here, really lifting up. Lovely, breathing nice and deeply. Bring your right hand down to your right thigh first this time. Left arm up and extending over towards the right, opening up that left side body, still keeping the weight evenly distributed in both sides. Lovely. Inhaling, coming back up to center. Exhaling, releasing that left hand down. Bring the right arm up overhead, reaching over towards the left. Opening up the side body and breathing. I can feel this in my legs today. Inhaling, coming back up to center. Exhaling, releasing both hands back down. Finding a moment. Maybe bring one hand behind your head again. One hand behind your sacrum. Just pausing. And then exhaling, folding forward from that hip crease. Bring both hands down to the mat. Planting the right hand and inhaling, lifting the left arm up. Exhaling, releasing that left hand. And inhaling, bringing the right arm up. Exhaling, releasing both hands and walking your hands round to face the front of the mat. Stepping back into a downward facing dog. Inhaling here, finding a little more length through the spine. And then exhaling, releasing the knees back down onto the mat. I'm going to just take a glass of water. Feel free to do the same. And then we'll bring our right foot off the mat. Right hand underneath us and extend that left leg nice and long. Inhale, reach up with our left hand. So we're in a gate variation pose here. Really squeezing our right glute to find that openness in the front of the body. So the exhale, we'll just sweep that left hand round and down in front of us and out in front of us and just open up the whole left side of the body, really releasing the head here, just letting it be soft and breathing nice and deeply. Keeping that chin tucked in towards the chest, so trying to resist the urge to look out or kink the neck. Then inhaling, lifting that left arm up overhead and exhaling, releasing it down in front of us. Doing that motion, that circular motion with our hands as we breathe releasing the head, the neck. And your next inhalation, just leaving that left arm up in the air and trying to open up a little bit more, squeezing the shoulder blades. As you exhale, we'll come back down into all fours. Thread that left hand underneath the right hand for a thread the needle pose. And just look up towards your right a little. And your next inhalation, sweep that left arm up overhead, extend that left leg, open up the body, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Exhale, sweep that left hand underneath the right hand. And this time, let's see if you can look up a little bit more. If that doesn't feel good for you, don't worry. And your next inhalation, sweeping that left arm up overhead, the right foot off the mat and the left leg long. Really opening up the body. And then exhaling, releasing that left hand underneath the right, looking all the way up towards the ceiling if you can. If you can't, don't worry, don't overstrain yourself. Be gentle, remember. And then inhaling, sweeping that left arm up overhead, sweeping the right foot off and extending the left leg. Maybe staying here or keeping that right shoulder strong, that right arm long. Turning both feet to face the back of the mat and inhaling up into reverse tabletop or wild thing variation. Lovely, really squeezing the glutes here to open up the front of the body. And then exhaling, bringing both knees back down to the mat, sweeping that left hand underneath the right. Just pausing here, breathing. And then seeing if you can bring your weight onto your left side. So we're going to untuck our knees and come all the way down onto our left side, bringing our knees up towards the body. So we're kind of lying on our side. Bring the right arm to meet the left hand, and then inhale, sweep it up overhead and out beside us. So it comes out behind us. And just look up towards the ceiling. Pause here for a moment, breathe nice and deeply. Feel that nice twist in the body, in the upper back. Just release, feel some openness in the shoulders, some softness in the neck. Allow the earth to support you. One more breath here. And then on your next inhalation, just rolling all the way over onto your back, bringing your hands out either side of you in cactus, palms facing up towards the ceiling. Just trying to find some softness in the back body here. Breathing nice and deeply, some openness in the chest, in the shoulders and the neck. You can either stay like this or you can inhale, bring the feet up towards the ceiling, just bending the knees, just allowing a small inversion here. Breathing nice and deeply, letting that blood flow into your upper body. And just smiling into your upper body here. Really trying to breathe nice and deeply still. Still using your diaphragm. And on your next exhalation, just hugging your knees in towards your chest, squeezing them in. And then we'll rock and roll up to seated on this side. So we're facing the back of the mat. Roll over our knees. Bring our hands out in front of us. We'll do the same thing on this side. So planting the hands nice and firmly, finding that length in the spine, maybe looking up and then bringing your gaze to the top of the mat. And then we'll sweep that left leg off the mat this time. Extend the right leg and open up for a gate variation pose on this side. Really squeezing those glutes to find that openness in the front body. We're trying to use our body to open other parts of ourselves. Then as you exhale, sweep that right hand round, down, in front of you and out, overhead. Bring the little fingers down to the mat, towards the mat for a slightly stronger stretch. Really trying to root down through the outside edge of that right foot. And soften the head and the neck. Breathing nice and deeply, really opening the side seams of the body here. And as we inhale, we'll just reach up through that right hand. And exhale it round and down in front of our body. Just creating this circular motion on this side, trying to release that tension in the head and the neck. Just allowing some movement here. And on your next inhalation, keeping that right arm up overhead and just squeezing the shoulder blades together, seeing if we can find a bit more openness in the body. Exhaling, bringing both knees together, sweeping that right hand underneath the left and looking over towards the left side of your body, bringing the right side of your face down to the mat for thread the needle pose. Inhaling, sweeping that left foot off the mat again, extending the right leg and the right arm up overhead, really opening up, seeing if you can just open up a little more. Lovely. Exhaling, sweeping that right hand underneath, bringing the feet back towards each other for thread the needle pose. Maybe just looking up a little bit more this time towards the ceiling. Once more, inhaling, sweeping that arm right up as high as you can go, right up. And exhaling, sweeping that right hand underneath the left, looking up a little bit more again this time if that feels good for you. Really trying to find that mobility in the upper back, which in turn gives us freedom in the neck and the shoulders. And then inhaling, sweeping that right arm up overhead again, and either staying like this, or if you want to, keeping that left arm nice and strong, you can bring both feet to face the back of the mat and open up into a reverse table, really squeezing the glutes to lift the body. Lovely. Exhaling, bringing both knees back to the mat for a tabletop pose, sweeping that right arm underneath and looking up towards the ceiling. Pausing here for a breath. Then seeing if we can use our right arm to support us as we come down onto our right side. So we're lying down on our right side here. Bringing the left hand to meet the right hand, and then as we inhale, we'll sweep that left hand overhead to open up the upper body. Breathing nice and deeply, finding that twist in the upper body, that softness. Breathing into this pose, trying to find openness and softness here, feeling that support of the mat, the ground underneath us. So inhale, seeing if we can come all the way onto our back with our knees facing up towards the ceiling. And just exhale, let our arms come out in cactus either side of us. Just noticing all the parts of the body that are touching the ground. Maybe noticing any parts of the body where they're not touching the ground. And then trying to keep that even throughout both sides of our body. And just the same, we can extend the legs up towards the ceiling, maybe straightening the legs or maybe keeping them slightly bent. Just breathing nice and deeply here, finding that nice gentle inversion, letting the blood flow around the upper body. Really noticing your breath, tuning into it. And on your next exhalation, just lowering your legs and hugging them in towards your body, squeezing them, maybe rocking side to side gently. And extending your legs long, extending your arms long. And just keeping your pelvis glued to the mat. We'll just walk our feet over towards the left side and our hands and our shoulders over towards the left side. So we're creating a sort of semicircle shape with our body on the mat. Just softening here, breathing into the right side of our body again for a moment, really opening up, allowing that nice length and space in our right side. Just really trying to breathe into the right side of our lung. On your next inhalation, just walking the hands and feet back to center and exhaling, shuffling them over towards the left side, keeping that pelvis glued. Sorry, the right side, keeping the pelvis glued where it is. So we're starting to open up the left side of our body this time. And again, just softening down into the mat, letting that length and space just be in your body. Breathing into that left side lung. Just slowing down, noticing any energy in your body, but not feeling the need to act on it. Allowing it to flow around. And slowly inhaling, coming back to center. And exhaling, drawing your knees in towards your chest once more. Maybe rocking side to side. We'll come into Shavasana shortly. So if there's anything you'd like to do before we do so, just looking after your body, listening to your body. Maybe taking a glass of water or grabbing yourself a cushion or a blanket. And then when you're ready, extending your legs out nice and long. Just letting your feet fall out to the sides, bringing your hands down either side of you, rolling your shoulders underneath you. Just noticing if you feel any tension in your lower back here. And if you do, just bringing your knees back up towards the ceiling, soles of the feet to the ground. Just letting your knees fall in to support themselves. And then taking one hand to the back of your neck and just gently stroking upwards, maybe stroking up the back of your head, and then just releasing your head down onto the mat again, finding a little more length in your body, softening your hands out to the sides, again rolling those shoulders underneath you if you need to, and then drawing your eyes to a close, letting your attention draw inwards, really noticing your body. Noticing how it feels. Noticing your breath. Taking some long, deep inhalations and some long, slow exhalations. Maybe breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, as we did at the start of the session. And then allowing your breath to return to its natural rhythm. Letting go of any control over it. And just allowing it to flow in your body. With every inhalation, finding a sense of length, of growth, and of expansion. With every exhalation, a feeling of deep relaxation and peacefulness. With every exhalation, just letting go of it, any tension in your body, particular in your head, your neck, and your shoulders. Just allowing any tension to melt away into the ground underneath you. And to feel that support beneath you. Letting every part of your body relax. Your feet, your legs, your hips, your hands, your arms, and your shoulders, your whole torso, your neck, and your head. Letting your face soften, your jaw relax, and your forehead relax. Just allowing your whole body to melt into the earth. A little more with every breath. Finding a sense of being connected and grounded. Allowing everything to be just as it is. Stay in this state for another few minutes. Just allowing your body and mind a few moments of stillness and some time to absorb the benefits of today's practice. Any thoughts float in, just allowing them to float out again. Always coming back to the breath, flowing in and out of the body. Still keeping your eyes closed, just bringing some awareness back into your body, moving your fingers and your toes, maybe stretching your arms up overhead for a full body stretch. Maybe taking a nice deep sigh here. Releasing your hands back beside your body, drawing your knees up towards the ceiling, and just slowly rolling over onto one side, and pausing here for a moment, making a little pillow for your head with your hands. And when you're ready, slowly making your way up to a seated position, keeping your eyes closed and bringing your hands to heart center. Just begin to rub our hands together to generate some heat. And then place them over our eyes, allowing our eyes to open as we bring our hands back to heart center. Namaste.